Here we go with Chapter 10, Lecture 1, and basically key ideas in Chapters 10 and 11. First question is, how is the United States changing politically, economically, and socially? And we need to look at politically, government-wise, what is the policies that the government is doing? Economically, how are the economics of the situation changing for America, as well as socially? Are we seeing changes in society? And so the second question has to do with the politics of the Federalists and Democratic Republicans. Okay, because in the beginning of America, we have a two-party system, and this two-party system, the fundamental debate between the two parties is what drives American politics at the beginning of this time period. And so also key to understanding this time is foreign affairs and outside issues. And so what were those? Got to start off with Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson is our president in 1800. Thomas Jefferson won the electoral vote, actually tying with Aaron Burr. You can see that this was a very contested election right here. And it shows you how divided America was between, at that time, Federalists in the North and a little bit in the South, but Federalists who believed in a bigger government to maintain control over the economy and certain things in the economy, versus the Republicans, who are kind of like small farmers mostly. But it's surprising that New York would vote Republican at that point, but alas. You will see more about Thomas Jefferson later as you look in the course. So I'm going to skip this slide. Thomas Jefferson radically transformed the presidency by promoting a vision of Republican simplicity. The first thing that you must understand about the Republicans is they wanted a small government. Jefferson's vision of America was that he wanted small farmers to dominate the economy. He wanted a small business, small farmers, less government. A lot of his ideas would resonate with Republicans today. One of the things that Jefferson did is he tried dismantling things that the Federalists had done. He cut the budget back. He got rid of the whiskey tax. He sliced the defense budget. He kind of took America's responsibilities and quartered them down to a manageable level, or so that he thought. One of the key things that happened during his presidency is this incident called Marbury versus Madison. This is the very first Supreme Court case in the United States history that actually led to this concept of judicial review. Basically what happened is that through this Supreme Court decision here, you have Thomas Jefferson's administration resisting this man named Marbury, who's a Supreme Court, or not a Supreme Court justice, but a justice who was appointed by the previous president, John Adams, and Jefferson refused to honor that appointment because it was done after Jefferson technically was, or it was done after John Adams actually was not going to be president. So with all of the details aside, what this significant about Marbury versus Madison is that the Supreme Court for the first time stepped in to actually make policy. And this is going to set a precedent for what the Supreme Court is going to do in the future. The bottom line with Jefferson to understand is that he wanted a limited, small government. The government that governs best governs least, in Jefferson's opinion. And I think that's the biggest idea that you guys want to take from this. At the same time that Jefferson was preaching small government, he ironically doubled the size of America with the Louisiana Purchase. The Louisiana Purchase led to the Lewis and Clark expedition in 1803, which was kind of a secret scientific and military mission. Jefferson was able to buy the Louisiana Territory from France uh, for just a bargain price, and sending out Meriwether Lewis and his assistant, Mr. Clark, to go catalog all of the different uh, scientific um, flora and fauna, animals and plants out there in the Louisiana Territory. And if you look at this was the Louisiana Purchase and the trail that Lewis and Clark took. And really what Jefferson, I think, was doing by sending out Clark is to learn what was out here so that they could figure out if they were going to send people out here for future settlement. One of the biggest problems that Jefferson had is problems with Great Britain. There were tremendous tensions that started to arise because Britain and France were at war. And so what started to happen is that American ships that were sending goods and stuff back to Great Britain and France started to become boarded and seized, and their cargo was seized, and even the sailors on the ships were seized. And this was going on all throughout the early 1800s by British ships and French ships alike. And again, they're going on to American vessels, taking people, taking goods, confiscating cargo, all this kind of stuff. In response, what the United States decides to do is, on number 3, banning certain British-made goods from coming into the country to basically punish them for what they're doing. Leading up to the Embargo Act of 1807, which is one of the worst ideas that America had, and I'll explain this. The United States wanted to get back at Britain for doing all these things, and in the Embargo Act, they decided to not trade with Great Britain, which really hurt northern businesses and even southern businesses too that depended on transatlantic trade with Great Britain. And so it was really difficult for those businesses to thrive and led to somewhat of an economic downturn, and really probably led to Jefferson's downfall. I think probably had he not done that, he probably would have enjoyed being president more, but he had a difficult time as a result. So as you guys review all of this information, look at these study questions. Successes of Jefferson's presidency. Number 2, the major domestic issues. I know it says number 2, I'm sorry. What were the major foreign policy issues during Jefferson's presidency, and how did Jefferson impact the presidency? These questions will probably help you as you read and intake the information from the lecture, and hopefully you can do well on the test. So we'll see you next time for Chapter 10, Lecture 2.